Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DOVECOTE. It is March 25th at 7:01 p.m. EST, and my guest today is Will Jobst. Say hi, Will.
Hey, I'm Jobst. I'm a game designer, editor, publisher of cool tabletop RPGs. I like the cool ones.
Hell yeah. What games might people know you from potentially?
Yeah, my most recent game was This Discord Has Ghosts in It. Discord is haunted and you are invited. Games like Torque and Black Mass and the forthcoming Plasmodics, Mutant Freaks in the Weird Future. And I've edited a ton of stuff that you might dig.
Hell yeah. Um, yeah. I never like the thing about this Discord as Ghosts is I feel like there was like a point where people were playing that, and then it becomes a question of like you need a wizard on some level. I feel like for a game like that. Although like from reading through it, it's like you've definitely put some effort in to like make it as simple as possible. Um, but
Yeah, I found that it's a really good, like, it's my birthday, we're gonna play this game kind of game.
Yeah, I gotta get around to it because like there was definitely a point where I could have, and then I didn't, and now I'm like, damn. Um,
I think every Halloween people want to play, so
oh hell yeah.
yeah.
I would love to hear a bit about I guess getting into the interview section. Let me have Intrero the interview bird fly in. There we go. I would love to hear a bit about like the sort of technical element of kind of putting together um that book because there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically for those who might not know, This Discord Has Ghosts in It is a tabletop role-playing game that's really none of the above. It is a live action Discord based spooky exploration where you pack 7 to 14 plus players into a Discord and you split up between investigators and ghosts. Investigators go from room to room in the haunted house, which are represented by channels in the Discord, and narrate what they see out loud while the ghosts are typing away, filling those rooms with horror. And so you're exchanging some secret information to get to the seance at the end, in which you have a climactic scene with each one of the ghosts. It came out right at the beginning of the pandemic. Adam Bass and I designed it on the Brain Trust podcast, and then put it out like a week after we recorded, and then it exploded. It was a bomb, and it exploded on us, which is both amazing and also like, oh, what do we do when this happens? Um,
Yeah,
and so the making the full book, which came out the January of last year, was a really interesting process of like taking these 14 pages of it's almost like early map makers being like, "Oh, I think Mexico looks like this," and then finding out really what it looks like. Um, was kind of like, here's the design framework that we made, and here's how, here's the 130 page version of that gives you literally everything you need. And so it's a very cool like book design process that I really enjoy.
yeah. One thing that I being the like miserable curmudgeon that I am reading through, one thing that I thought about a lot was like uh when you were making this, this was like early Discord, right? This was uh like what year was this?
It's like pre CIA leaks Discord.
Yeah, it's like
like
pre bullshit, pre and shitification.
yeah.
Um, I'm wondering like were there any thoughts during that process like what happens if any of these tools that we're using to run this or allow players to run this like what would happen if those were gone or put beyond a paywall?
Yeah, it's a little frightening, right? That like Discord could suddenly decide that they want to like Web3 their shit and then ruin it. Like they're getting so close to doing that all the time. Here we are talking on Discord. And I think something like IRC and voice chat will just exist anywhere. So it's a platform that we as as netizens like. So some of it is uh like love like you've never been hurt, right? Something like that. So
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
just going for it, and you know, I'm down to ride it the high as long as it goes. And I'm working on a reprint right now, so it's like, yeah, I have some confidence that this is going to be around, or that there'll be Slack, there'll be Google Hangouts 2077 or whatever. Like, we'll
Yeah.
get it.
And like I do think there is like I would hope, maybe not I would hope, if I were doing this as an artist, I my thought would be like, if that does happen, what an interesting piece we've made, right?
Yeah, and it'll also be a work of adaptation for what comes after. You know, I feel like this is a concept of like, if you just boil it down, and this is the way that Adam and I have made a couple games,
Mhm.
including um, Archives of Alexandria, which is like an RPG-ified Wikipedia race. And then we made
Oh.
another game called Open World RPG, where you're on a Discord while using Google Street View.
Oh, that's really
And
fun.
yeah, and in that game, you each take roles of somebody in the car. So someone controls the music. You're like listening to shared music. Another person is like looking up all the places that you're driving through. Another person's the navigator, and you just go inch by inch through. And I just remember in our playtests, like going through this like Montana town to the burger place, and it's like, oh, it's kind of like actually there. And I feel like these tools um, will live in some way or another. Like they have kind of embedded themselves into existing on the internet, and maybe that's very hopeful. But yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah. Is that sort of like medium mixing compelling to you as a player too, or is it just something that you like design in?
I like it as a player. I like a weird variety of experiences. Like the Wikipedia race game just came. It's so like Wikipedia races are when you all start on the same article, and then you can only navigate by clicking links, and you have to get to a predetermined end article.
Hmm.
And super fun. You learn a lot about how like the taxonomy works on the internet, but we just added like a hidden information layer and then like a role playing layer. But I like that stuff a lot. I like blendy, weird experiences that pull me away from the table. Especially, I'm doing most of my playing online nowadays. So I like all the cool different things you can do.
Yeah.
And I think there are some cool games in this, like, uh, have the same pace of play for things like this. Like Apollo 47 is a good
Oh
example of
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Um, One thing that I definitely noticed, like looking through your catalog, is you know, a mix of you and other folks. I think there is, if I had to like identify one thing across, one immediately visible thing across all these, I think it's that the layout is like really incredible, and really like kind of iconoclastic and unique. Do you want to talk a bit about like uh I guess your philosophy when it comes to like doing layout yourself and also like hiring for layout?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much. I mean, that's a huge compliment. Um, Layout is really interesting, and book design is just like a 400-year-old art form that we just keep on doing. So it's nice to look at it in that larger context. But I think, like, philosophy wise, I like to learn a bunch of like little rules and then forget all of them. I think that's really, really important. And kind of update what I think about this. So, like for example, I use a lot of reference in my work, and I think that's pretty clear for things like Black Mass, which is a game about witches fleeing Salem. It looks like my reference was Public Occurrences, which is a 1600s broadsheet from Massachusetts. So I was like, no, I just want it to look like that. How do I make that work for a book and have it still be readable? Um, and for Torque, I wanted to make it look like a Volkswagen um, manual, and I literally just took a Volkswagen manual, like measured all the pages, found out like what I liked about it, what I didn't like, and how to push it for everyone. And so really diving into each style and finding out what's cool about it and trying to make it completely unique in itself to make like these evergreen feeling things.
Yeah, that's really I think like uh as someone who I'm people will know that like I've said before about fantasy specifically, like I like when people go to the source on things, and I think that's really good. I think that rules. I think like drawing specifically from material that you find is really really exciting. Um,
Yeah, and it's graphic design isn't really real, right?
mhm.
You just are just kind of doing stuff. And so connecting it to history. Yeah, I said it, graphic designers. The best thing about graphic design is that it's not really real.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
it's all
It's,
pictures.
it's all pictures. It's shapes. Um, I find that like learning concepts from design theory is really great. Just
Mhm.
like the ideas of like big, medium, small, or just even like how your eyes move around something. It's good to know and learn and then throw away. But it does get me in trouble like diving all the way deep into these styles because I'm laying out plasmatics right now and I'm just using Blender the whole time. Like
Oh,
I'm
that
doing
rules.
so much in Blender. It's like, I hope this will be good. I'm just gonna like push this as far as I can and then see what happens.
That
Because like
rules.
if it's not good, it's at least gonna be extreme. So
Yeah, from what I've seen of plasmatics, I really love the like it. I don't know if you describe it as like blobject-y, like Y2K almost.
oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
That kind of stuff. It's a lot of acid graphics are what I'm pulling from there, which is like, yeah, this 2020s interpretation of Y2K stuff, just with like if it just was DMT'd out, like you just completely blasted it and melted it. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. But I think the big thing about layout is that you can really just learn how to do it by reading a couple books and by just copying a lot of things that you see and trying to learn how they're done, and it's cool. Like I have just picked it up in the last 5 or 6 years.
Hell yeah. Um,
That's a
well,
long time to just have picked something up, but
I mean, listen, in the grand scheme of things, I mean,
true.
people have been making games since they were bashing rocks together. um, I'll ask my kind of normal rotunda of questions. Um, are there any games that you've been playing or reading or looking at recently that you are particularly enjoying and you'd like folks to know about?
Yeah. I just went to Breakout Con in Toronto and I got a bunch of cool games. I'm over here reaching for my big stack from Torontonians and other folks who came. And it was really cool to see all the stuff that I've been hearing about and super excited for. I think my top three that I saw last weekend would be Bug Dish by Ryan Kahn. You play
Uh,
bug chefs, making delicious, delicious meals, delicious foods. Um, I really like it. It's just very cute. All the art is like very bright, and
yes, here we
uh,
go.
just love this cutie little game.
Yeah, this looks awesome.
Another, yeah, another one that I think is in Ashcan or it's in like an early printing that I got to get was The Things We Become by Julian Legault. And this is a storytelling game set in like a post-apocalyptic, overgrown future. And I got to play this, a playtest version, at a game night, and it was really special. And I think about it often.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just gorgeous. And I think my third one, I'm just doing stuff that I bought. Kind of a cop out, but
That's okay.
just really liked it. Is Hedge Witch by Justin Vandermeer, who's out of Guelph in Ontario.
Mhm.
And this one, I mean, it's just this beautiful bright blue book where you play, or green book where you play Hedge Witch live in a little cottage in the woods and spend your days looking after the forest. Seems like a very nice little hangout game, and it's cozy. Yeah, got a lot of different flavors here, but
Hell
this is
yeah.
stuff I'm excited to bring to a table.
These sound good. Yeah, these look awesome. I've been kind of sifting through them, or not sifting through them, finding them, locating them, hunting them down. Um, but yeah, Hedge. I really like the palette on Hedge Witch. I'm a big fan of a like, GBA or
Yes,
limited palette.
shouting yes at this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really good
I think
stuff.
like yeah, Justin also has this frog is ruining my dungeon crawl, which is like the orange
Oh,
version. And yeah, you're totally right. The limited palette really notice it on the cover, but on the interior, I'm just kind of like hanging out, loving this.
yeah. I've been doing a lot of 4 to 8 color palettes on my games
Nice.
recently, and it's been very, very, very fun. Although I don't think I have the restraint that that these do. I tend to cheat a little bit. I'm like blending colors together and stuff.
You know
Um,
what? It's such a thing. I made Torque with only 5 colors, and all the colors were taken from a Steve McQueen poster from the 70s. So
oh,
it's
that's
like, this
cool.
just feels right. And there's a bunch of photography in there, which is a good way to cheat
Mhm.
with that. But I was using like the super graphics 70s design style. If you just think of like the 70s and like the big Atari logo, that's just kind of like what this graphic design style is like. And
Yeah,
it's really fun to just disappear into that and have that make all my decisions for me.
I'm telling people to look at Torque's layout because it's like it's so gorgeous.
Oh,
Um,
thank you so much.
yeah, I love the the way that a lot of the I'm kind of curious if you have any thoughts on this particular element, like the way that you've kind of cut a lot of the information um into like very complex backgrounds is like fascinating to me because like I feel like that's usually a pitfall for a lot of design.
Yeah, I wanted specifically to have a tempo of reading this book. So you would get blasted by like rules about a tactical road game, which is what Torque is. With Torque is 2 games in one. It's a tactical Mad Max 3x3 grid where you're just bashing and crashing and moving around like video games, like Into the Breach, for example. It's a big
Hmm.
inspiration for that. And then when you're off the road, you're in the rest stop, and it's this very chill, free-form role play. There's barely any rules, but you're just being in character, unwinding after this. And so, on some level, I wanted the book to have this, we're digging into rules and learning stuff, and then we are breaking and going into just enjoying stuff. And so, there's all these D66 tables
Yeah,
to figure out, what your car looks like. And I just wanted to use those as a tempo break for the rules, and to use those so you could catch your breath.
sick as hell. Love it. I
And
need to get this at some point. It's awesome.
hell yeah. Yeah, and I think with the complex backgrounds to answer the question, I knew that if the content wasn't going to be referenced at the table, if it wasn't like critical rules information, people will read like shit on a subway from like 30 yards away and still like get information. So you can have it be very visually interesting and taxing and have the typical layout for rules and information that you want to communicate very, very clear and pared down.
Oh yeah. Um. I suppose. Moving on from there. Games that are coming up. Anything that I guess we'll start with things that you're not working on, and then we'll move on to things that you're working on that you want to talk about. Are there any games that are coming up that you're like interested in and want to give a shout out?
Yeah, I think Adam Vass's Blood Borg, which is kind of a dirtbag vampire Morkborg situation, is coming on Kickstarter soon. It's gonna be a little tough because I'm working on a lot of stuff editing,
That's
so I'm trying to
fine.
figure out. Like I'm editing that, but I haven't read it yet, so I'm just excited for it.
Yeah.
Um, I think like big dreamy stuff for me. This is a really great question. I am playing in a couple games of Wolves Upon the Coast by Luke Gearing, which is like a grand campaign hex crawl. And I decided like, hey, I want to try these hex crawls. Why not try this monstrosity? And I'm playing like a pre-layout, pre-edit version. And I just think that'll be very cool when it comes out, if it does.
Hell yeah.
And I think that just might be interesting. Um, what are some games? I mean,
What are games?
what are games? I I think you might be in this place too where you've been so like inundated by tabletop games
Mhm.
that you kind of just let them roll over you like waves and then you're
Yep.
like I'm going to catch this one and ride.
Yeah, you just kind of forget. You just there's just they're coming out, they're happening, they're funding. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
right.
trying to keep track of the ones in progress is even harder. Like yeah, so that's a really good question. Um, I don't know. I'm honestly curious about what you're excited for coming up.
Oh boy. I mean, I'm excited. Oh god.
See?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I backed Interstitial 2E, which I'm really excited about because I really
Oh
like the
yeah.
first one. Um, I am excited for. See, it's also hard because like there's so much stuff that I'm like watching be developed, but that's not like this is actively coming out. This is funding now. Um,
Yeah, I think Hell Piercers is one of those for me that I'm
oh
like,
yeah,
this is just so sick, and I love hearing about it, and I know it's gonna come out, and I'm just kind of patiently like hands folded, just kind of like, yeah, whenever this comes out, I'm gonna get it.
yeah. The things that I have like thoughts about are like things that I'm playing, right? Uh, uh like I'm mostly playing things that aren't out, which is like a bit of
Okay,
a like I do
nice.
a lot of playtesting. Um, like I'm playing my friend Lilith's game Euphoria 2180, which is like a like sci-fi post-apocalyptic uh like survival RPG where you're
That's so cool.
transforming and doing a lot of weird uh horny future shit. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, and I'm also playing a lot of I've been playing a lot of Jess Levine's Planet Fist.
Oh, I got to play that. The game is so good.
Yeah, I'm playing a lot of the Faithless edition, which is like the stuff that she's working on, which has been really fun. Uh, and I mean, I'm also playtesting a lot of my own stuff, but that's beside the point. Um, yeah,
Nice. I mean, yeah, it's just interesting to hear what people are thinking, what stuff people are playing.
yeah. I wish I were playing more games that were out, but I'm like, I don't know. I like the effervescence. I like the transient nature of like playtest.
Yeah, and but on another side, I just want to bring things to. I play with two groups that aren't affiliated with online tabletop world, Twitter
Mm.
RPG world, and it is feels so cool to just bring a beautiful book to them and be like, yeah, we're gonna rock with this. Are you
Yeah.
all good? And they're so down. Like I can just curate stuff and that role feels really cool playing with new players and playing with people who don't know every single micro drama in tabletop. And it's
Yeah.
really nice.
Do you have difficulty like bringing new games to your tables? I know that's like a pretty common thing, but also it depends on the table, right?
I have completely indoctrinated these two groups into
Yes.
doing whatever I want. And I know exactly how to like position games so they will want to play them. And I think only a couple times they have been duds or something like that. When we've done like, here are the 5 games, I'm thinking about if you have any games, let's pop them on here and then let's talk about all of them and play. And only sometimes it has been stuff that has fizzled out or something like that. But Yeah, it also helps me. I play test with both these groups when we're not playing other games, and it's really nice. I don't know. And I do a monthly game night as well, where I get to play new games with new people and be a player in new games. That's something I'm not good at. Is being a consistent player. I'm not one
Yeah.
of the international players.
I am also a kind of clinical GM, a forever
Yeah.
GM.
Here's my next topic. GMing is just better than being a player, right? It's like better.
Give me your. I agree with you. Give me your pitch on
I think
that.
it's just better. I think I'm personality wise not suited to be a really good player. And I think I just have, 5 times more GMing experience than being a player. So I don't think I'm particularly good at being a player, if that makes sense.
I agree for myself. I feel like I'm often like when I'm a player, I feel like uh I feel like there are GM tendencies that leak into being a player that I'm not always happy with. Where I'm like GM, I want to use this mechanic. um,
Yeah, you keep on pinging the group chat. I mean, that's got to be the biggest thing. I also
yeah.
find that like I'm a really picky player, and so I found that when I was listening to actual plays with newer GMs, things like the Adventure Zone, for
Mhm.
example, um, I really grew deeply frustrated with just on the language level how people were communicating with each other and creating basically like violent environments if we're talking about like nonviolent communication, stuff like this.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I just like nails on a chalkboard. And so I can bring in my like philosophy about how we exist at a table and not have to worry about a weird GM power trip. But that's like, little bit of a slippery slope, but
Yeah, I I really agree. Like, okay, so I listened to I started listening to Counterweight uh, 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 a while back, and I didn't get through it. And the reason why is because Austin Walker is a great GM in
mhm.
2024, but there were a lot of these tendencies where it was just like, oh, if someone said that to me in a Blades game, I would leave. Like, I
I
would
would
not be happy.
literally peace out. I would pause the game. We would have a different conversation right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how I found like I think about Taz mostly with this stuff because I was stopped listening to actual play around that. And I really like actual play and I really like the art form and what people like Jeff Stormer do with it, what Jay Stroutman does with it, what um, my first dungeon folks do with it. It's really great. Um, and I was listening to it like back in the 2010s when it was like
Hmm.
role playing public radio, when it was like crusty one shot episodes. And I just reflected on how listening to Griffin McElroy might legitimately just make you a foul person to play role playing games with. Like,
Yeah, I am. I've thought about this a lot. Like, I think that there is a. Oh God, I have to be so careful
I
because
know I was already like just tiptoeing.
uh not even because like I care about what certain people think about me, but more just because I've said a lot of this stuff. More just because I know that people who I know have like have very very well argued differing opinions from me, and I don't want to hear it when I leave this
Yeah, of
call.
course.
Um, uh, so I guess what I'll say is like I think that there is a I think in some very popular uh APs, I will not name any. I think that there is a paternalist.
Critically important.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think there is a paternalist streak in the way that some of the games are DM'd. Some of the earlier games are DM'd. Some of the more
I
popular
really like
ones.
that phrasing a lot. I think that's a very well observed, like, yeah, because that's what it feels like, right?
Mhm.
That there's some kind of power imbalance that is core to this storytelling style.
Yeah, and I think like for a lot of those tables, that's comfortable. Like I mean, I'll like now that I'm being nice about it, I'll talk about one of the ones that I mean, which is like Dimension 20. Some of the earlier seasons of that, like you you don't get the sense that like the folks who are at the table are uncomfortable with this dynamic because like they're they're like referring to Brennan as a dad, right? Um,
Yeah.
but it is a dynamic, and it is something. I'm less worried about it being a thing that's happening at this table, and more, this is the thing that's happening, and then people are picking it up and bringing it to their table. Because I think that people really do mirror actual plays, like sometimes
Right.
even
If you
one to one.
if you watch D20 every week and you play tabletop role playing games every month, like your input output is completely fucked. Like you're yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's interesting playing with different GMs, being a player in different GM games and playing games that ask the GM to do different things or to not exist. I had played in like a grognardy-ish RuneQuest game for one night when I was on vacation. This is a weird story. And it was a group I'd been dying to play with, a giant group of like 7 or 8 people. And the GM probably said 1,000 words total. And it was a lot of players just discussing with each other what they were going to do, different plans, different ideas. And it was like, wow, this is fascinating to be a part of. This is very productive, fun play. This is not. The cameras can't be on for this. Like, this would drive an observer crazy
Yeah.
trying to watch this. And, there's just a lot of beautiful kinds of play that emerge. Um, and it's Dimension 20 and the critically important one.
Mhm.
Definitely have a tempo of information and how scenes are set and stuff like this that you might not even notice if you watch them and don't do these other things. And then you might bring in some resentment to your players or to experiences for not mirroring them.
Yeah, that's kind of my like. I hope that my hope and my the thing that I hope to do with like my work and like hope to see other folks do with their work is like, okay, so what you got to do is you got to get the D&D tactics players over to Lancer, and then you got to get them out of Lancer, and then you need to get the uh you need to get the like Strad gays over to something else, like Thirsty Sword Lesbians, or
Yeah.
whatever. Uh, I mean, listen, my goal is to get them out of Thirsty Sword Lesbians, but that's because I have like far more freakish machinations.
Darker desires.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thirsty Sword Lesbians is a wonderful game, but I have, I have prophecies to weave.
Yeah, plans within plans.
Yeah.
I like
Uh,
that. I really like that. Um, I had recently seen a tweet go around about like here are the 3 player types.
mm,
And I don't know if you saw this. It was like putting your face up to the screen to get into the world. And another one is like a regurgitation of the Power Gamer one. And then there was like your character is a doll and you want to dress them up and do all of this stuff.
mm.
And it's really interesting because I don't think that there are really player types. And I think that they're like masks basically that you put on for different situations. And that's at least how I play games. Play a lot of different kinds of stuff and I make all different games and things like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's really interesting.
I would agree. I feel like I think referring to them as masks is very apt, where it's like you you have to kind of like put yourself in a certain mode. A lot of it's about genre, I think, where it's like,
Mhm.
you know, uh, I'm gonna be go like I'm going to go play Fellowship with my D&D friends. Like that's very different from playing D&D with your Fellowship friends. Um,
Yeah.
because you play uh like D&D with your Fellowship friends is going to be like, hey, let's do like diceless Strahd or some shit. Like it's gonna
Yeah.
be there's gonna be a certain degree of like we're kind of above this, but uh, uh, Fellowship with your D&D friends is going to be, we need to all learn these rules together and unlearn some other rules. Uh, and yeah, I definitely agree. I think like you come into those spaces in very different ways.
Yeah. And what is it like when you play D&D with your Catan friends? And what does that
Right.
mean? And what is it like when you play Helldivers with your D&D friends? What's the dynamic for a GM-less game like Helldivers? um
Yeah. I didn't know Helldivers was GMless. That rules.
I think Joel is the GM. Are
Joel.
you familiar with
I
this?
don't know if I am. I know very little about Helldivers,
Oh,
unfortunately.
okay. Okay. So, there's some video games that have like a persistent world state where
Mhm.
things happen and advance. And Helldivers marketing did an amazing thing by just revealing that the guy's name was Joel, who was
Oh,
responsible for
right.
all that stuff.
I there's a TTRPG called Hellpiercers and a video game named Helldivers, and if I see
Oh,
either one, I will mistake it for the other
of course.
99.9% of the time. I have played Helldivers and I know of Helldivers. Yes.
Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah, anyway. Yeah, that like we come to the party that we were invited to and can socially figure out what's going on and, trust that we can decide how much we want to opt into experiences. And that's where like safety tools come in a big way.
Yeah, I had so at PAX U, I had a really interesting experience where um I uh there was a Monster Hearts 2E game that I was in that was like, all queer folks. Um it was uh a very small table, and I had a miserable time. Like
I'm sorry.
I it was a situation where like I felt like there was some trans misogyny coming from the GM. Um,
Oh no.
yeah, and it was just really awkward. We weren't using the mechanics in any way that really had any stakes, and it was not great. And
That's
then
brutal.
yeah, but the part that kind of made it funny in context was I I then later went and played like some random Grognard game and had a much more like comfortable and like included time where people were like, calling on me to like use my character's abilities and like,
That's
engaging in
awesome.
in roleplay with me. And these weren't people I knew. There was not a pronouns thing. Not to do
Yeah.
some like Natalie Wynn shit. Like obviously I think like we should be doing pronoun circles. But it's more to say like, sometimes when you put on the grognard mask, if the game is good, then some of these things like, kind of come out in the wash, I guess.
Yeah, I really like that. And especially that a table is not the game that they're playing
Mhm.
and that whatever social organization that happens can be like, yeah, you can have a foul bad time playing Monster Hearts and uh that I'm sorry you had that experience, but I'm glad there were some grogs that were like, some trad or OSR gamers they're very cool.
Yeah, it was good.
What was the grog game? I'm so
It
curious.
was, I think it was called Dragon Slayer. It was a very
Fuck yeah.
small,
Oh my
yeah.
god. Dragon Slayer.
It was and I don't think it was like the really popular like it was a different Dragon Slayer. It was like uh it was
That's
this
so
it was
sick.
the GM's game.
Oh
Um
my god.
it was cool. It
That's
had it had like locational damage. I was playing a character who had who was like it was like a like speech focused character. Um every time you used magic, you would like get more draconic blood, and if you got too much, you would like mutate. Um, it had a second by second initiative system, which was like
Whoa.
it seemed like it would suck, but it was actually kind of good. Um,
That rips. That's so
yeah,
cool.
good game. I should find that game and like recommend people buy it because it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I saw a couple one just googling for it, so I'm gonna try and find it.
Yeah. Is it called Dragon Slayer? Uh,
There's one by Greg Giuseppe.
maybe. Gosh, I
Dragon
wish I
Slayer. What a sick name.
It's a
No
good
one needs
name.
SEO. SEO is fake. Name your game Dragon Slayer.
Yeah, it's not the one from OSR Publishing.
Okay.
Um,
Name your game after another game and make it better.
yeah, exactly.
That's sick.
I gotta hunt for this thing. Oh, here we go. It's by Slayer Games.
Oh,
Um, it hasn't
Slayer.
kickstarted yet. Um, I will say I can't entirely put all my weight behind this thing because I don't know I don't know much about the person who made it or
Yeah, but
you
you
know
played it and had a cool time.
I did. I played it and had a cool time, which
You know what? They can notify me on launch. They can go
yeah,
ahead and notify me on launch on that one.
I will listen. There we go. Okay. Um, but yeah, how about we do like maybe one news story and then take a break.
Sure.
Um, which of these would you like to do? Topic one or topic two? I'll let you pick.
Um, let's do. I think topic two we could talk a lot about. So maybe start with topic one.
Okay, we're gonna slam through topic one. Um, so I wanted to because I had mentioned these on a previous episode, and I want to kind of update folks on where this stuff is. Um, uh, any statements about itch.io are mine and mine alone. Um, uh, oh yeah, fuck the newsbird. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Nat. By the way, congratulations on I don't know if it's over yet because of the like overtime thing from whatchamacallit, from fucking crowdfunder. Not fucking crowdfunder is good. Um, uh, but congratulations on Warren Guard. I hope that it's over. Okay, congratulations on Warren Guard. Cool ass game, and I hope it does really well. I hope it does really well after the Kickstarter or the crowdfunder, and you make a lot of money on sales, and
Oh,
also
this game looks so cool.
it rules. We had Nat on the other week, and it's a very cool game. Um,
The layout is so sick, and the art is so sick, and the game
yeah,
looks so sick.
it's very good.
Triple sick.
Um, okay. Let's see. So, uh, this is from Esther, who does a lot of really good threads and such and posts on TTRPG stuff. Um, Esther's bundle managed to, or Itch finally sent through the money to Medical Aid to Palestine, which is great. We love to see it. Um, However, Just the Humans bundle has not is not set up for you know sending to maps. So hopefully that gets worked out. Um, yeah, it seems like kind of a clusterfuck, and I hope that everything works out with regards to that. Do you, I will open the floor if you'd like to say anything about this.
Yeah, I feel like if you put any single issue to the itch team, they would do the right thing. And I think it is a question of their own resources and their own priorities and what the realistic, ticket time that they have for something is. Because we're looking at the thread and in hearing and dealing with itch myself, there's a lot of like start and stop with their financial department. And it just could be better funded, and there
Mhm.
could be a lot more resources for the creators that make their platform what it is. Um, and especially that if we think about like the Black Lives Matter, the racial justice bundle, um, being, what was that, 3 years ago? Like
Yeah, about.
maybe there should be a system for something like this. If this kind of thing keeps on, this platform is amazingly chosen by people to raise money. Maybe there should be a system for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. because the itch team and Leaf will just jump into replies and be like, we're working on this, like we'll be good. But it seems only there needs to be like a critical amount of eyes on something.
Yeah,
And
it
so
seems
how
like
much?
maybe there should be a system for like making this happen instead of every time it being like the responsibility of people who aren't having their funds moved.
Yeah, we can only judge these platforms by what they do and how they do it. Like promises don't really mean anything to us as the stakeholders in things like itch. I have all my games on itch. I've had a lot of success on itch, but I think that I don't trust them any more than I trust Drive Through RPG or something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary of this. And if you want to get mad at anyone, get mad at me. All the things that you think are bad are my opinions. All the things that you think are good are Will's. This is uh, you do this anyways because I'm a trans woman, but uh, yeah, um, yeah, I think that's a pretty good pretty good for that one. Um,
Yeah, and finally, Free Palestine.
yeah, free God, fuck, free Palestine. Seriously. Um, yeah, I listen. We've had certainly had some conversations about Zionism and such on the show, but like, holy shit, um,
Yeah,
it shit sucks, and I hope uh, hoping for freedom and justice
a-
for the Palestinian people,
absolutely.
demanding even, uh, and yeah, let's take a quick break. We'll how do you feel about 5 minutes?
That's great.
Cool. We will be back at 53, hour and 53. Um, see you all then. Hello, we are back with our second news story. Um, uh, I I don't know. I have complicated feelings about this. Um, so, I mean, not really I think my feelings about this are uncomplicated, but I don't know if I care. So, uh, it was announced, it was revealed to us that Larian Studios will not be making Baldur's Gate 3 or Baldur's Gate 4 or, Baldur's Gate 3 DLC. Uh it's they're splitting up from Wizards of the Coast. Um they there were discussions about doing more of it, but they are not going to be doing it. It Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious like how much of the stuff they previously promised or, said might be coming will come. Um yeah, they're done. Sven Vink from Larian wrote on Twitter, reading the Reddit threads, I would like to clear up something. Wizards of the Coast is not to blame for us taking a different direction. On the contrary, they really did their best and have been a great licensor for us, letting us do our thing. This is because it's what's best for Larian. Um, Really interesting.
Yeah, it makes me think where's Hasbro in the equation and dealing with Hasbro for these things, and also what was their planned support for Baldur's Gate?
I know that there was, so let me say, there was some talk about DLC. There were discussions about doing more for Baldur's Gate 3. They did patches. There were uh there are let's say, it seems like there's this robust and cross-platform mod support plan will still happen, although we don't know for sure. Um and yeah, you know, that's that's that.
Yeah, and I saw that they were going to perhaps do a new Divinity or another similar thing with their very nifty engine. And I'm actually very excited that they're not doing another Baldur's Gate, especially because that has got to be a completely constricting, like, trap dungeon of a creative brief, like impossible client situation. Um, imagine having to email Ed Greenwood like every couple days about something.
Scary. Don't scare me like that.
Very bleak idea.
Yeah. Every time
Um,
you want to have someone like every time you want to have someone act outside of their alignment, you have to email
Yikes.
you have to email Chris Perkins. Um
And I think it's much more amazing that Baldur's Gate 3 was so good.
yeah, I agree.
It feels like despite all of more corporate interest than ever in the IP, they still made something special and personal and really cool.
How much of Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 2 have you played? I'm curious.
I have played about the first 2 or 3 hours of Divinity and Divinity 2. And
Okay.
then I don't think I really knew how to play those games when I played them. Um,
They're tough.
yeah, exactly. I feel like I would be able to rock with it now that I kind of understand the philosophy of putting oil on the ground and lighting it on fire. I
Yeah, you
feel
gotta
like
get
with that
nasty with
tool,
it.
um, and then I played maybe all of chapter 1 in Baldur's Gate 3. And
Okay.
then I know a little bit about what happens later.
Sapphic World RPG Larian game when I don't have I'm not that important goblins. But so my thing about these games, and I really hope that now that they're independent again and have a lot more money, they can fix this. I don't know about Divinity 1. I still haven't played it, but 2 and Baldur's Gate 3 fall apart in the third act or the last act. They like I uh uh
Yeah, I've heard this.
it's
And it,
pretty rough.
it makes me think like how many video games period fall apart in the third act.
Mhm.
And just because like knowing a little bit about development that the most dev time and money is on the first 25% of the game. or the critical path or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
it seems like it gets a little nasty with that thing. Um,
I
yeah,
hope they're
especially
able to land it next time.
and considering their whole thing is narrative design, and yeah. Ha- If you were Larian, what would your next move be?
I would make a game with two acts, and like I would make a game that's like structured like Into the Woods is, you
Oh
know?
yeah,
Like I would make a
nice.
game with a very like lighthearted, adventurous first act and a fairly dark second act, and then I would end it there. Because I think the problem is that they hit the first act, they hit that dark second act, they don't know what to do with it. Like they've, or maybe it's not that they don't know what to do, it's that they have a very like they need to narrow all the decisions that you've made into a series of comprehensible endings,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is true for pretty much all RPGs, right? Um, and those endings wind up. I think my problem tends to be with them is that their endings those endings tend to be. It's not that there aren't enough of them; it's that they tend to be like really focused on the plot, like capital P plot. Um,
Yeah.
and I'd like to see them be able to be like, hey, you know, this game ends with like Will's story resolving or something. Um, I'd like them to be able to be more specific with it, because I also just like I think the reason why I say Will is I think Will really got robbed, and I think his story is really emblematic of what happens to their characters in the third act. Um, where not to spoil too much, but like the main quest really steals a lot of moments from him, that I was very upset about. um,
Oh,
and it's a shame, and I would like them to see I would like to see them narrow a bit. I think that's what they need to do, because right now they're trying to make games where you can do a lot of stuff, um, and not all of it is like compelling or interesting or good.
yeah. It feels like you just need to do the Larian magic trick like 5 times in Act One, and then just kind of follow the lead that you've created for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, honestly, I would not be mad if it was like a CRPG where it's like if it was a Disco Elysium, if it, at least in terms of like party comp, like it was a you have you have your main character, maybe you're even picking from like four characters, right? Um, and the rest of your party is just the other characters that you didn't pick, and you can't choose to get rid of them, and they're part of the main story. Like I think they need to like dig deep into that, because right now you wind up with a lot of things where it's like, oh, uh, this plot line falls apart if Shadowheart's not here.
Yeah.
And like, how do you deal with that? Um,
Yeah. It's really tricky. And I wonder what I'm really curious about what they do next. I'm really curious what WotC does with Baldur's Gate,
mhm.
like as a idea in Forgotten Realms. It's not outside the realm of possibility that there is a Baldur's Gate edition of D&D in the future.
Hmm.
That's like here's how you how you play a Baldur's Gate adventure, and here's all these pre-gens that are exactly, Asterion and Shadowheart and everybody.
Yeah,
I think if I'm WotC, I'm thinking about that.
I would agree. I like as much as I'm kind of shitting on Larry in here. I don't think there's another company that can make a game. I don't think there's another company out like that's out there right now that can make Baldur's Gate 4, at least in a way that's
Hmm.
like satisfying. Um, like uh maybe Owlcat, but I don't like Owlcat's doing their own stuff. Owlcat's growing and evolving and doing cool shit for like Warhammer and Pathfinder. Like, um, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I was just playing Rogue Trader, and um I really think that Rogue Trader is an instructive game for game designers as far as like a framing device. I think it has probably the best narrative start and like here's what we need to do in a game I've played in the past few years. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just gonna take this and use it for my own stuff. Like it's so good that you can, you become the rogue trader. You need to do these 5 things and you're stranded before you do them. And it's like, great. I'm gonna get set up in the world. I'm gonna figure out how to play. I'm gonna meet my team, and I'm going to like be a chaos freak at the same time. Um, yeah. Wow, that's a cool game.
I think that's Owlcat does this very genius trick. I mean, Rogue Trader's a lot easier for this, where it's like, you are going into the game is called Rogue Trader. You're going to play as a Rogue Trader. But Owlcat, like from playing, like I've been playing Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, and they do this really good trick where it's like you're starting at the game and it's like, okay, you can be whatever you want, but they're gonna make you the Knight Commander. You're going to be leading the Crusade. Like they do make you a character, right? Which
Yeah.
I think is smart. I think I'm a big fan of the Exile from Coder 2. I'm a big fan of Harry Dubois. I think more games with like more CRPGs with you are a guy, you're a specific guy. It makes things a lot more manageable, at least to my estimation as a person who has not ever designed a video game.
It's like a as tabletop designers, like they kill for what we can do for free, basically. Like we can just come up with a good framing device and that's good enough. And I think of games like Tyranny as something
Mhm.
I played a few hours of this year. And in that game you start off you have a very particular job. And I think that's the same thing with Disco Elysium. I think more than just being Harry, you have this strange job that only a strange man can have. Um, and yeah, Baldur's Gate really feels like the big damn heroes thing. And the Divinity games also feel like that. It doesn't really matter who I am. These climactic events are going to happen. I would love dialed back, like you said, a 2-act thing where I'm a specific freak doing
Yeah,
freaky specific things.
I love to be a specific freak.
Yeah.
I played so I only have one complete Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough, where I played Dirge, Dark Urge, and like I I was really hoping to get that Harry Dubois quality from it, and I didn't really. Sad. Um,
Yeah.
Good for Larian though.
Good for Larian.
Hope they make a million trillion dollars.
Yeah, I hope they do a different genre
me,
for me.
me too, actually. Yeah, because they have done that in the past. Okay. Do you wanna read some mail?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We have by the way, please send your emails, your questions to darlingdemonclips@gmail.com. Uh, However, we have a swath of questions from from powerful VIP question asker, um, Goblin, aka Skibbity Bopum Dada. Um, so let me sift through these and see which of these we want to go. There's 10 of them.
Let's just hit them in order.
Yeah,
Let's do
okay,
it.
that'll work. Um, Here. Okay. First of all, question one: do you think too much emphasis is put on unique mechanics when setting materials with adequate enough rules may be far more worth the effort for the return? It's a great way of asking if I get away with making a game carried by its setting. Um, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm just applauding this question. I'm standing up. I'm throwing up, screaming. This is a great
Good
question.
question.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think 100%. And I think that there is a kind of sea change happening where setting is becoming important again.
Mhm.
Um, when we kind of hit the a critical issue period of like World of Darkness games being absolutely all setting everything.
Mhm.
Um, and then the reaction to that in the aughts and in the tens of like we are going to deliver mechanics where the setting materials are kind of embedded in the mechanics. And then OSR is a great example of like, what setting materials are you talking about? And I am of the group that if you can write a great paragraph or chapter that's about a setting, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it and it's gonna be good. If it's good, I'm gonna like it. Um, and I I think my big thought here is that I am now unable to design a game without thinking of what the first session entails.
Hmm.
And I those two things are so tied to each other that I cannot conceptualize the game without thinking of what the players are doing the first session. Which ties into what I'm talking about the Warhammer game. You know, that the first session of that game is so closely tied to the existence of the game. But yeah, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think like that. I very much agree on the first session thing. I'm writing a game called Autopsy Feast that has a thing where it's like the first session is a specific you were in a laboratory, uh, and you've just escaped like tubes, and you're like rampaging out of the laboratory. Like no matter what, that is how you start the game. Um, and like I think that level of specificity is good. I'm a person who is very much like in in that zone of like designing things for a specific setting, designing settings that are part and parcel, for, to games. Um, I think like my biggest example right now is Sapphic World, where it's just like if you look at a move, it will probably have some reference to like a character that's in the game. Um, like you cannot escape it. you cannot you
Yeah.
cannot separate them. Um, and so I guess my answer to this question would be uh, just get silly with it. Just like make these things connected in ways you didn't think you would be able to before.
And I think the hack here is that think about setting in a way that's not a map at the front of the book. Think about
Hmm.
setting as like the people setting should only be communicated by people who have something that they need from the player characters.
Hmm.
That I recently edited a book working through these ideas of like a sticky encounter and a toyetic encounter. And these are like concepts from W.F. Smith and Ty Pitt. W.F. Smith, who's Prismatic Wasteland, who made Barkeep on the Borderlands, which is
Hmm.
like the urtext for me for this kind of thing. But everything should be physically stuck to the players. Like they have to deal with something, and then you can bring in your setting in your story, communicate all these setting elements as people in the game, people that players contact with. And this is for a more, one player, one character, where each, you know, trad game kind of stuff. But when you start from there and how is everything toy like and playable and focusing in on adventure rather than system design, getting much more narrative design out of this project we're all working on, you can really do some cool stuff that I think there's a lot of room to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think like having stuff that is going to like it is kind of it is the video game RPG approach on some level where it's like you're designing you're designing the space to be played. Um, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Lilith says my personal take is that a game's rules is the setting, no matter how much you try and remove it. I can see that. I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah, my friend Adira always says that like everything is system. In response to like, does system matter? Like the kind of book size you choose is system,
Mm,
and the kind of font is system. So I clearly agree with all of this looking at the way I make games and books. Like I
mm.
think it's all there for aesthetic and tone and putting you in a place and simulating it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's moving on. Question two. Let me see. Uh, Oh, this is a fun one. This is kind of related to stuff we talked about earlier. Um, what program should someone interested in TTRPG making as a hobby have? Google is a advertisanal nightmares. The PDF is a strange and mythical beast I've yet to tame. Get Affinity Publisher if you're like just starting out. That's a really good publishing. Like if you're talking about layout, it's a really good publishing thing. But write your text in like Google Docs or whatever, like or somewhere safe, you know.
Yeah, I think you can do it all for free with Google Docs, as you know, free after having a computer and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Google Docs, Canva, rock
Yes.
with Canva. Some great games were made in Canva. You probably don't even know.
Hmm.
Um, and as far as programs go, I can tell you what my rig is, what my setup's looking
Yeah.
like. I use Scrivener, which is, I don't know how anyone would write a book without Scrivener. That's just what I'm gonna say. Like I've done it in Google Docs, I've done it freehand for smaller games, but Scrivener is like a word processing app where you can, have a bunch of files inside of a book and it all be like in the same project file. It's just like you can make a big expansive project, and it helps me organize like, dozens of playtest notes, also with development notes, also with rule scribing, my handwritten notes, and then designing the book and then actually the writing of the book. I can have it all live in one place and I don't need to like do a bunch of, you know, file conga line to make sure I have everything in the right place. So that's great. I use the Affinity Suite. I would probably use the Adobe Suite if it was cheaper because you can do a lot of wild stuff in there, but Affinity you can do 89% of everything. Um, yeah, and then I use Blender for 3D.
Hell yeah.
So stupid.
It's really cool.
And I do a lot of just pen and pencil or pen and pencil stuff. Pencil and paper design and sticky notes and visual design stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say like play with your toys, play with your toy box. Like I use when I'm trying to get like a rough structure for a map, there's a Steam game called World Box that I'll open up and I'll just like randomly generate a like continent and kind of trim it down to my needs and then like trace
That
over it
rocks.
and then erase some stuff and redraw it if I don't like it. Um, like you know, there's a lot of stuff that you can use to create stuff that'll be really good for your game, and I think just being open to what you already have and thinking about fun ways that you can use stuff is a good way to go.
Yeah, and I think like other free things you can use if you're thinking more on the publishing side, getting a tool like Pure Ref or something like that for just collecting reference material. Pinterest is really great for all of this stuff. Um, yeah, Pinterest is okay now.
Good. I'm glad that it's free. um I feel like we kind of already discussed this one. It's what do you look towards for inspiration on book layout slash aesthetic. I feel like we kind of touched on that.
Yeah, everywhere, I guess. Like I don't turn it off. I think it's important to have really good boundaries for like when you're making stuff and when you're not, because you need the rest time to actually make meaningful art. Um, but having a cell phone that you can take pictures with and then put those pictures into a Google Keep thing, just sorted by what the game is, because I'm screenshotting stuff all the time. I am taking pictures all the time when I see a cool book, a cool sign, a cool painting. Graphic design doesn't matter, but it is also everywhere. And you can find a billion things that you can see how translate into a book itself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, just the research is such a fun part of it. And you can find so much stuff on the Internet Archive. For example, you can just go find engineering diagrams and old engineering books on the Internet Archive, and you can just steal
Yeah.
from them, and they're not going to do anything.
You can just
it's
use
all
them.
it's okay.
It's old.
It's old. It's old, and you can use it as a basis for your art. Um, You can also find, yeah, the reference is so underused, I think, in our cohort of game designers that you can make something that looks quote unquote like professional, and then you can make something beyond that very easily.
Yeah, I I still need to like kind of do some layout learning, but yeah, it seems like a very versatile like discipline.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
And just, like take books off of your shelves and then get a ruler and then just see how far the text block is from the edge of the page and then from the inside and then from the top and bottom.
sift
And
around.
even there you've just learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Next is I'm not sure if this is supposed to be this word, but we'll just hope that it is. Um, what is the most interesting use of a relatively ubiquitous rule you've seen, used in a way that you never expected, or just to do something strange? I feel like that's supposed to be innocuous, but I'm not sure.
Because if it's ubiquitous, it's like a rule that I see everywhere, but it's in a specific game, it does something different, which is great.
Yeah, that does
Um,
sound. Yeah, okay, we'll go with you, Beck. If goblins, do you have, do you have any more clarification on that? Um, but yeah,
oh my God, Goblins, I see your message. You should totally make a game in Clip Studio Paint. Um, I don't like accessibility is something that you can do outside of the game by having a plain text version, and you can just have that as another downloadable thing and make the most extreme, artistically strange thing you can. There's lots of ways to make things accessible while making your design completely unapproachable, which is a cool place to be in.
yeah, I my only recommendation with Clip Studio Paint, make sure that you're like separating out your text blocks because your computer is going to lag a lot if you fill them up too much. Uh, it may be kind of difficult, but best of luck to you.
So interesting use of a relatively ubiquitous rule. I think immediately of like Into the Odd and everything that Chris McDowell does. So like if we take character creation as a ubiquitous rule of games, the way that you generate your HP and your stats, and that determines what your starting package is. I think that that's a really fun, cool twist on something. I think of games like Macchiatos and Monsters, which is another OSR game where you have a bunch of tables you roll on to figure out what your starting gear is, but the tables are you have to decide which dice you're going to use on each table, whether a d6, a d10, whatever. So you have this capability of reaching something much higher on one table, and that's your specialty.
Oh,
And
huh.
so, yeah, just these little tricky little things that are like, oh, this is really clever. And I like cleverness in the designs.
Yeah. Honestly, I think like the other week I had Riley Hopkins on, and we were talking about Fellowship, um, and Riley was asking about the consequence mechanics because like the in the original version they're a little confusing, um, and I gestured to the like advanced consequence mechanics, um, which are the GM has a checklist of consequences that they go through, and then they reset them. They like reset them every time they finish them, which I thought was like so smart. Because I feel like there's like a tendency, if you have a consequence list, you're going to go for like the ones that you like the best most of the time. And I think requiring the GM or the overlord uh to pick a new one every time and go through all of them frequently is like really really cool.
Yeah, I love that narrative design. That's really cool. I'm like on this journey to figure out how to write the RPG city book because that's
Mm.
such a type of book in games. And I was reading City State of the Invincible Overlord, um,
Oh.
which is a Judges Guild game from the 70s. And for each district, there was just the subtitle for each district would be like 33% chance of catching a death cold in this place. Each district had its own single unique percentage chance or 1 in 6 chance of something happening. And it was just so nice because it told me so much about each place without having, in the city, you roll on this, D100 table and you find out what that thing is. It's like, no, actually, this street, you're probably going to have to give alms to somebody. There's like a, 66% chance you have to give alms on this street. And you just know what's going to happen. And it put so much character into the game that it was just so surprising.
Yeah, it's great.
Game designers keep doing this. They keep on, this is like, I love this question because it's actually a goal. Like, how can you make little clever twists and make things your own?
Yeah, like developing things. I think it's really great because a lot of the time, I feel like there's a tendency to just be like, okay, this is gonna be my Western version of this framework, and I think coming in with a design philosophy is a really good way to do that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna this section of questions on the email is just called "Time to Burn Bridges."
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm just gonna send them to you. Let me know any of these that you don't want to go over, and name them by
Um,
number.
I can do all of them, but seven. Yeah, I mean, seven is just
Seven's
like,
kind of intense.
I think we both know who seven is.
I have like two, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's get to seven.
All right. So,
Let's work our way.
what is the most annoying recurring drama in TTRPGs you want to say your piece on finally? Do I want to? Well, it's annoying, so I don't want to say my piece on it.
What is the area?
That's a good question.
What's the area of discourse?
I
And I understand if you're not comfortable saying.
I mean, it's well, I mean, okay, maybe it's just because it's happened recently. Maybe I got to think more. Maybe, I think I might need to dig deeper.
Maybe we switch drama for discourse because I feel like drama
Yes.
implies there is someone who is hurt by it.
Mhm.
That someone is, yeah, that there's some kind of hurt going on. And discourse is just like, damn, this is a bad idea that you keep saying.
Oh, I have a good one. When like the the backlash to people telling D&D people to play a different game. Any tweet that's like that, I like collapse in my seat when I see
Are you
it.
talking about like the concept of beggar talk?
Uh,
Or are you being specifically like we should let D&D players just like do what they want to do? Or are you saying
more
that like
the posts where it's like, you'll have like a wave of like something bad will happen in D&D. Then there will be a wave of posts like, hey, you should play a different game. Then you'll have a wave of posts that are like, uh, it's kind of other games cost a lot of money. Like it's that sort of thing. It's
oh
like
my god.
the excuses for why people can't play another game and like treating like being like actually you're kind of racist for saying that people should play
Yeah.
games other than
Like
D&D.
suddenly we're looking at the material conditions of buying a book or
Mhm.
a file online. That stuff is weird. Some people just can't be like no, this is so tricky.
They can't let
It
go.
seems like there's a big hesitation of feeling like you are not doing the cool kid stuff.
You're not doing the right
And
thing, yeah.
yeah, that there's this philosophical reason you can't do the right thing instead of that it's a comfort and personal choice,
Mhm. Oh, yeah,
maybe.
we're doing mail. I need to bring the mail bird in. I need to bring Apocrypha in.
But yeah, I just kind of don't even think about that, people playing different games or
Fair.
because people will find it. I found it, and there's lots of people who found it, and I maybe this is a wrongly held belief, but that there's enough D&D players that they will filter into becoming Sapphic World players.
No,
Like,
I think you're right.
and did I just make an argument for trickle down D&D economics there? I think
Maybe.
accidentally I did. Oh, geez. But I think that there's a because that's how I started. I started like playing D&D, and I started by being like writing D&D advice and stuff. A long time ago.
Right.
And I couldn't be further from it. So yeah. Okay, what's mine?
What's yours?
Most annoying TTRPG discourse. I mean, system doesn't matter is a
A good one.
particular bugbear because there's a group that says system doesn't matter, like out of complete just like blunderbussing, like absolute. It's hard to understand if they're even talking about something or they're talking about specific people's artistic styles, right?
Yeah.
If it's like a clearly targeted thing or whatever. And so that's often some flack that people have just been talking about for a billion years, a million billion years. So,
It it does feel like when people say system doesn't matter, it feels like um it's like it's like the people who are saying system does matter are on top of a hill looking out at the vast like fields and swaths of RPGs, and the other people are looking back at like a small forest cave. Uh, like it's like the system might not matter to you for the like 5 games that you play, the 2 games that you play, but it does matter for some other people.
yeah, or that it's like it's a selective application.
Hmm.
Like I think like the system is down first of all, but also
Yes, it is.
um I think when you look at the OSR movement and that idea of what system is, it's like a collection of norms and practices at the table. And it's an argument that you need to so extrapolate to cover everything that it just doesn't hold up at all.
Mhm.
Um yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um but I just think it's not that I think that system does matter. I just think that it's a waste of time to
Right.
think about.
Yeah, it's not a useful discussion.
My secret one that I can say my piece on finally is that no one is right or wrong on how much playtesting anything needs.
Hmm.
Only the designer can choose as a measurement of their financial perspective, their time perspective, and their effort. And those are the realities that go into making games. And so I think there is a culture of expecting complete perfection when playing a game. When really we should bring the video game energy in of like video games shouldn't work and often they don't. Tabletop games shouldn't work and we all clap and use imagination power to make them work. And so
Yeah. Good.
yeah, we haven't had a good playtesting discourse in a long time, which is good.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that we're at peace for once.
Like just for reference, I playtest so much all the time,
Me
but
too.
I also love games that aren't playtested, and sometimes I just can't tell. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Some people just design like that. They just know it.
Wow, question 6 is going to be dangerous. And Goblins did say that I was an advocate for Reaganomics,
Oh
and
no.
I'm just saying I would go see that guy's show who blasted that guy. I would go see his concert.
Yeah, good. Again, any opinions you disagree with are mine. Any opinions you agree with are Will's.
He's touring right now, the guy who shot Reagan, and like
Good.
they keep on closing, keep on shutting down his shows, and he's like, "Oh man,
He should be allowed to play. Let
yeah."
this man play. Um, what commonly held piece of TTRPG wisdom do you vehemently despise? I love the language there. Really
Oh
fun.
jeez.
Uh,
Oh no, I'm just groaning. I think there's a lot of bad advice in general in any art form, and so it's like, what is the advice that's stopping people from making things?
hmm.
I think that whatever advice that is kind of holding a anti-art and anti-human perspective on this creation, I think that stuff is might actually just be an evil idea. So a lot of Redditors, whatever they say, it's usually something like that.
Right.
Uh, I think there's a lot of advice that like people who are I would describe as anti-art would say that like you should make things that lots of people would like
Hmm.
or that is somehow going for a broad audience. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Goblin said, "I love when my questions are met with a groan. It means I've accomplished something great."
Two in a row. About to be
Um.
three. Yeah, but I feel like anything that's like getting in the way of you creating something
Mhm.
quickly and something that you want.
Yeah, I agree. Lilith says, for me, it's like GM advice that literally only applies to D&D and Pathfinder. That's a good one. Um, I, man, I have a really silly one, which is just like, I think the idea that it's maybe not a piece of wisdom, but it's a piece of design philosophy that I don't really like. It's that you shouldn't be able to fight a cool dragon until like level 10. You know, like a fantasy game. Um,
Yeah.
because I think when well actually I guess the piece of wisdom that I disagree with is levels 1 to 5. Um, I think that the characters in these games should be like in fantasy games and adventure games should be like a, you know pretty powerful to start out. Like they should be able to fight dragons. Let them fight dragons. Let these people fight dragons. Um, I don't know. I like it's a thing that like I guess can kind of sound a little silly and a little petty, but it's like for me, I see a lot of people coming into like the hobby, like or TTRPGs as a hobby, like especially D&D, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna fight a cool dragon, and it's like, no, you're gonna fight wolves on the road, and
We're talking session one dragon.
yeah, I think Session One Dragon. I think fantasy adventure games should be built where you can have that, where you start with like, you know, 1 to 3 really cool abilities, um, and or things that your character can do, moves, and that's my belief, and I hold it strongly.
You're gonna love plasmatics. I mean, you just described
Yes.
like yeah, I totally buy that. I think there's so much GMing advice that has you contort yourself and your personality into like something that someone online thinks is the ideal experience for something
Mhm.
when really any advice about running games should bring you closer and more in step with the people that you're playing with.
Yeah, and you and what you want at the table too. Uh, yeah, I think it's important. Uh, okay, the last question in bridge burning time. Who do you think has done the most damage to the hobby in their short time on Earth?
Starts with a Z, ends with an H.
That's a good one. I was also gonna say Daniel Fox. Um,
Oh, well, yeah.
yeah. Uh,
Well, yeah.
and that's
Different scales, different strategies.
yeah, different techniques. Pretty bad.
Um,
This is
I
Aaron.
mean,
Oh, hey, Aaron.
it's Zarin King,
Okay.
Sir Zarin Kingsley. I mean, Aaron King is someone who has done a lot of what's the opposite of damage? Positive damage to
Blessings.
RPGs. I have lasting
Healing.
damage from Aaron King
Positive energy.
positively. Yeah, exactly. A
Channeling
positive
positive energy.
energon blast
Yeah.
from
Now, if there are any game TTRPG developers who are undead, that might be harmful to them, but it'll be okay.
I'm
Um,
trying to think of a fun answer to this question. The who has done the most damage to this hobby in their short time on Earth? Hasbro?
yeah, Hasbro's a fun one.
I mean, Hasbro, um, earnestly like is a bad. It's bad. It
It's
does bad
bad.
stuff. Um, hmm. Yeah, do you have any fun ones?
Uh,
The Satanic Panic set us back. So
R-
I guess like
Ralph Bakshi's Wizards. In a good way, like good damage. Uh, yeah, that's I think it's that. Gary Gygax, that's a good one. I love.
Gary.
Yeah, cool. We have gosh, we have three more. Um, uh, uh, Here I will put this in.
I also submitted a question. I don't know if you see it.
Yes, I did see it. Well,
Okay.
I have that loaded up. Um, so, what do you think of alternative forms of TTRPG play, such as play by post or other non-standard forms I currently can't think of? I love them. A lot of my best experiences have been play by post. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think playing in a variety of like mediums and styles just is good for you. And I even think like, playing a 8-hour war game once will do a lot for you as a designer. Um, just doing experiencing the different paces that play can have is really great. Um, I obviously like play by post, and live digital play and live play, and my preference is like a 90-minute session over Discord. Like
Hmm.
that's just the good RPGs. I think honestly for me an alternative form of play is playing for 6 hours in a tabletop game or 5 hours.
Hmm.
Like I just can't even understand. But yeah, are there any out there ones that you particularly like?
Um, yeah, man. I wow. I mean, I love journaling. I think journaling is really fun. I think trying to
Yeah,
bend a game to journaling is really fun. Like, I love games that are
that's
made
cool.
for it, but I love doing solo games in like games that aren't made for it. Um, I oh boy, what are some other ones? Um,
I like site-specific games. I have made some site-specific games,
hmm,
just for like friends and games specifically for birthday parties or things like that. Games for
uh,
specific places. Like I did a game night here at an outdoor cafe, and I just needed to be able to have a game locked for people to come and just play by themselves. So it had to be like easy, big theme, very quick. I think we ended up calling them like um brewery games or things like that that you could just play. And so designing towards that goal, designing towards these different goals of play can make some really interesting results. And when I lived in Boston, there was this it's like ruined structure in this park that had these like
ooh,
four platforms that you could stand on. It just created like a playground game for that I could just play with another person.
that's awesome.
And yeah, it's just it's just games are so cool. I really like them.
Yeah. I'd really like to try at some point. Like I don't know. This might have been a hypothetical or something that actually happened, but like, uh, Jay Dragon's 7-part pact, playing that as a house party game,
Oh,
where
cool.
you you like reconvene for wizard boots, but otherwise you're like doing scenes and rolling in like domains or physical spaces within the house, and like you like let's say you need to go to the librarian, you go to the living room, and like you go to the librarian and you're like, okay, we need to consult on this thing, and you're like, okay, we need to consult with all the other wizards. You call all the other wizards into the living room, like uh and you're eating and drinking while you like it's a
Yeah.
it's a LARP-esque environment, which I think is a really fun idea. um and I will reiterate play by post because I love it, and like Sapphic World is very inspired by a number of play by posts that I've run and played on that I uh, wanted to have a game that would like facilitate playing forever, basically.
Yeah, were there any particular considerations you brought from your experience with Play by Post into Sapphic World that you were
Hmm.
like, how do I make sure I can reserve this kind of play for myself?
Well, I think something that I realized is that everybody kind of wants to be a warlock on some level. Like, uh, it's kind of really fun to have like relics and artifacts and weird stuff that's like this binds you to the desires and the mission of this particular entity. Um, and I think that was a big one that like showed up in a lot of play by posts that I tried to kind of bring in. And then I think also just like uh having an emphasis on like very casual stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see in a like you wouldn't even necessarily see in a like you know D&D, like when they had the old like I forgot the name of the books, but the ones that are like pregnancy rules and stuff, like a sort of casual attention to like you know intimacy and kink and like strangeness. I think those are
Yeah.
elements that I really wanted to put into a TTRPG.
Yeah, and I think Play by Post really focuses in on the quieter moments because you just have infinity time and space to craft it.
Yeah. Like Sapphic World is a game with like nested PBTA rolls where you'll like roll for like travel, and then like you can look at like a separate like sub move for that if you want to do it, where you camp, and then if you camp you can like, if the thing that you're cooking is complicated enough, you can wind up doing the crafting and cooking move. um and that's just like, I like that slow pace. I like getting really into the nitty-gritty when it feels right.
Your posts can show you playing the game. I think
Yeah,
that's very cool.
absolutely. Okay. So, next is, oh, this is interesting. Um, might come back to this one, 'cause
Cool.
for a variety of reasons. Um, we'll go to this one instead. What is this? Hang on. I don't know if you know anything about this.
Maybe.
So this is uh bonus question from my BF who thought this podcast was about tattoos. What are the potential risks of glow in the dark tattoos? He's looked into it, but there's a lot of conflicting info. I've assured him the queer nerds who are strangers are knowledgeable about many things and are trustworthy. I expect you not disappoint. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, definitely. So for glow in the dark tattoos, it's really going to impact how quiet and sneaky you are at night.
Your stealth
Is going
skill.
to be your stealth skill is going to be absolutely scuffed after you get a glow in the dark tattoo. You
Yeah.
will get scarier and raves become easier. Is it just it sounds bad to get fluorescent ink in your body, right? That
Yeah.
just sounds bad.
You're gonna be sneaking around with the stealth suit from from Old World Blues, and it's gonna be complaining about it's gonna be going like lights off. Um, yeah, I don't think we know anything about this. Sorry. Um, okay. I don't know if you know anything about this one either. Because this is very, I think this is very much a question for me, but it's, how do I get my boyfriend to play a one-on-one TTRPG that's kinky and sexy? It's not a question of kinks, it's more of a question of introducing like dice rolling and rules to horny activity. That's a tough one. Um,
I actually just heard some people discuss the is it called the marriage game? It's like one of the OG sex board games.
oh yeah,
And it just seemed like terrible. It's called Monogamy, hilariously. I
right.
think it's like a Monopoly thing. Anyway, yeah, what do you think?
I see. What's funny is I actually don't have much experience like trying to draw a person into doing this sort of thing. Uh, although do I? Because I've definitely done this in terms of like play by posts, but also like those people were into it already. Um,
Hmm.
introducing dice rolling and rules. I think it depends on the game. Um, I think you need to have a conversation about like what is the intent behind you two playing this game together, and like you know, what are you what are you hoping to get out of it? Is this going to lead to something? Is this
Right,
just
is
a,
this like exploring a section of our intimacy, or is it because I guess the question is like, what is this doing that Truth or Dare doesn't do? And
yeah.
so something like that. That's like the reviews I've heard of monogamy, especially Yeah.
Yeah, like as someone who did just write something that is in this vein, which is biotraffication, like
Right. Yeah.
I do think the intent of that is you're going to be making an interesting story, but things might happen. I know what was it? We had the folks from Wild Ties on the other day who were not the other day, like last month, who were talking about I forgot the name of the sequel that they're doing that's like 18 plus, but like they were talking about how like they have a clause in the book that's just like, hey, this might turn into something else at any point, like, uh, and that's just kind of how it is. So, um, yeah, I agree, and I think also maybe introducing them to like more conventional games and then kind of introducing the other angle to that would be really really good. Um,
I, like,
yeah.
do you mean something like the RX roles in Powered by the Apocalypse, or something different?
Maybe more just like you play like I don't I'd have to think about what one one on
Why?
one games I
Yeah,
can think of, but
yeah, I think like in general, there's a big lack of romance in tabletop, but specifically like intimacy is just only found in the indiest of indies on itch.io. And like I think maybe the biggest that the freaks got was like the Beast coming out and getting a bunch of awards. But other than that, yeah, it's something I definitely would like to see more of.
yeah, like I think maybe you start with like Star-Crossed or like Eye of the High Ground or something like that, and then you move on to something more intense. Because I think setting those like, you know, we're playing the games together, and then I think having the language already there, and then being like, hey, what if we included this other element into this? I think it's probably better. Although like maybe I don't know, maybe not better, but
Yeah, I'm just looking at the question again. So it's how do I get my boyfriend to play these things?
mhm.
And maybe it's like my idea would be like having a place where this game lives that you can just go to,
Mhm.
right? That like I think a thing is like the setup and the thing, and if you just have this like running thing that just exists on like a shelf or something,
Right.
that might be accessible and approachable.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Um, well, that's all we have from Goblin. Thank you for the thank you for the list of questions that took us through an hour. That was wonderful. Um, as always, really really good questions from Goblin. I
Yeah,
always really
seriously.
appreciate it. Um, I have a question from Will Yost. Um, it says what? Sorry, explain. And there's a photograph which I will be showing on the stream. Um, so this is the image for tabletop RPGs on Twitch, which I have not really
Explain.
paid much attention to until now, or
It
until
is
it was sent to me
horrible.
earlier today.
So like each category on Twitch has a different picture that someone picks to represent it, whether you're playing like a Pokemon challenge run or Baldur's Gate or just chatting. And this is the tabletop RPG one, and I've never been more embarrassed of what I do as my life's work than looking at this. I mean, it's got to be pre-AI. I mean, that's how bad it is. I
Yeah.
want this to be AI generated, but it's not.
So let's talk
Let's just
about
work through it.
these characters. I think so. We'll do it in reading order. So we'll talk about the Space Hulk first.
Okay,
It's
this is like a space marine, but it has a head that kind of is disappearing beyond the back of the suit. And the suit looks so fucked up. And yeah, there's one horse hoof on the other leg.
right. And it's like dug into the dice, and then it's also like a bone.
Yeah, there's a skull that looks very fucked, and the skull is different than the skull that's on the pauldron, and it only has three fingers and a thumb, and it looks
Right.
basically like an eel inside of a thing. and there's a very confusing far away smoke plume coming out of the dice landfill that everyone is located in here.
It's a cool design and concept. What is its stance? That's a what, like one
Is that
foot
like the
up,
result? The
maybe.
8.
Yeah, rolling 8. And then we have the superhero on the right. You mentioned the Aperture Science logo
Yeah.
before we start
Troubling.
streaming.
What could that fucking... So we
The
have
golden
Mr.
cape,
Valve here.
right?
Kind of an interesting character that um seems to be balding and also is wearing glasses and is shooting it through the glasses.
Like Cyclops,
Big smile.
but like almost a smile, the sort of smile that you make when you're saying something. Like this guy's in the middle of a sentence.
They're all shooting in different locations.
That's true. What's up with his glove?
The glove, the cape.
Yeah, it's like silver gold. Is he like Metal Man?
Like, not to be like too much art police here, but look at the way the leg just kind of extends down from in front of the torso,
Oh,
meaning that like he is like absolutely his butt is fully in the air behind him.
that's
And
wild.
like also the further away pectoral is way bigger than the closer one.
Right.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Huh.
And the shadows too are just very weird.
So much bloom on this image.
Okay, and
Also,
then last but not least, we
the
have
cowgirl.
the cowgirl with, and we were talking about this before the stream,
Yeah.
but there's a robotic like shoulder into upper arm and then a bone style forearm and
Right.
hand. Yeah.
The bone lady. And the like long wild hair, like curly almost hair with the braids is really like it's it's like kind of it's very 90s TTRPG book, right? Like
It looks like a Lost Deadlands cover art. Jason Bostwick's in the chat saying that the sharp dice are superior to the Zochi skew dice. I don't know if you've ever seen the Zochi skew dice, but I cannot look at them without feeling physically sick. That
I'm
is
gonna
how
have
powerful
to
these dice
I'm
are.
gonna give this a look.
Okay, no, seriously, like content warning, I get dizzy looking at them.
Okay.
Um
Oh, I see.
I don't know what happens. I just know I look at them and I have like a weird headache for the rest of the day.
Yes, feel free to look at these on your own, folks. They're
Yeah,
very
you're about to
interesting.
inflict pain on your viewers with these.
Yeah, I will not
Big
be showing them.
shouts out to Jason for
Look those up.
ex- um yeah, Aaron Savage World seems right. Okay, let's talk about the dice.
Yeah, we gotta talk about the dice.
Um wow. Every number is the highest number on the dice.
So true. That's really cool of them. I'm glad that they're winning.
But they're the highest toward us. So what does that
Right.
mean? What does that mean?
This is a nonsense world.
We are this thing is telling me that like first of all they're all trying to fight stuff off screen in different directions, but I am the kind of arbiter of the truth in the setting. I'm the storyteller and I'm just rolling crits, baby.
Rolling all crits. All 12s and 8s and 10s and 6s. I I think if you gave me like 20
Yeah,
minutes, I can make something better than this in Clip Studio Paint. I'm
what
sorry.
would you make? Well, like what conceptually would you have represent tabletop RPGs?
Red, like this would be really basic, right? Like this would not be a very good representation of the entire thing, but like it would be better than this, which is like it just incomprehensible as like an icon when you see it small
Cowboy
on the panel.
Warhammer Supers.
It would be a red D20 with the 20 on it, tabletop RPGs, wood background.
Okay.
Like really
That's
simple.
classic. That's classic. Here's what I would do.
Mhm.
A mischievous middle-aged man peeking over a DM screen with a wizard on it.
Oh, I like that. That's really good. I
And he's kind of giving you like an arched eyebrow, and you can tell he's about to do something a little dangerous back there.
I you said mischievous, and I had this other image enter my mind, which is like a a goblin really close to the point of view, holding some coins, but it's like very clearly like it's like a goblin in like a very like an art style like this one, like a very like overshaded art style with
Airbrushed
like
goblin.
yes, an airbrush goblin with like fins on his head. Like
Yeah.
this should be a specific character that you know, but it's not. And there's nothing else. There's not even like tabletop RPGs. It's just that, and he's like in darkness.
Yeah, there's coins, and then you can see like the glint of a dagger behind his back.
Yeah,
And then
it's
it's
really
like,
good.
this is. If you told me that I had to look at that every day on Twitch to watch a tabletop RPG actual play, I would look forward to seeing the fucked up goblin.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Well, thank you for using this with me. This is an RPG that won an award from Polygon, probably strictly the seventh spot in listicles titled "Top 10 Non-D&D Games."
Wait, are you joking? Please say psych.
No, it's a they're joking. They're saying
Please
this
say
this would
psych.
be.
Yeah.
This
Wait,
is
what would you name the game? Can we take the art back? There's so much. I mean, every picture's 1,000 words, right? And I've only said 2,000 so far.
yeah. Hang on, I
What
can give you
game
something
would
here.
this be the cover of?
This is Mutants and Masterminds like
Fuck.
something, right?
It really is. I think you nailed it.
Yeah. Um,
I like Aaron's suggestion of Savage World. It's like Savage World's 0th edition.
I like that. Where's
Yeah.
Is there just a Mutants and Masterminds logo that I can just throw onto this? Uh, don't think there's a like transparent background version. Well, anyways, we're getting over time here. Um, thank you so much for being here. Will, is there anything that you'd like to send folks towards before we wrap up?
Yeah, how about you go to goodluckpress.co where you can find all my games available in print. And you can sign up for the newsletter and hear about anything new that I'm doing there. Uh, but you can find me online at will_jobst, and you can hang out over there in the Brain Trust Discord for the podcast I do with Adam Bass called The Brain Trust.
Hell yeah. Um, this was a wonderful episode. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to raid someone, and I'm not sure who yet, so give me a moment. Um, I think we're going to raid It's Casey time, who's hanging out and playing with my friend and collaborator Grief. So go say hi, and yeah, please check out all of Will's stuff, and we'll be back next week with who do I have next week? I don't even know. I don't check these things. Andrew Gillis from Girl by Moonlight, which will be awesome. So yeah, take care everyone, and see you next week. Might be streaming some Dragon's Dogma also this week. So yeah, bye.
Remember, if you don't like what you see, you can change it. It's up to you, really. Goodbye, good luck, and have fun